Hey, everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms. And I am joined here, as always, by Sam Snyder of Primetime Sports Talk. And this is another episode of Jungle Talk. But you're not getting the hooting and the hollering because you know that this is the wrap-up video on what was a very difficult game to watch. So as you know, before we even get started, we always forget, please, if you don't subscribe to this channel, please subscribe. This is a show by fans for fans. We only ask for you to subscribe and support us. And
Mark, can I ask a question? Do we ask for money for subscribers?
No, we just ask.
So we don't offer like there's no premium service or
no. This is it. You are getting the premium service by watching.
Oh, so it's free.
This is free.
All you have to do is click the button. Great.
Just subscribe. That's all we ask. And please tell them where they can find all your stuff at Primetime Sports Talk.
Absolutely. I write for Primetime Sports Talk. Like Mark said, you can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. You can find Primetime Sports Talk on Twitter at Talk Primetime or at primetimesportstalk.com.
All right. So let's get right into it. As you know, it's the good and the bad, and there's a lot of bad. There's so much bad to talk about this week. We're gonna alternate
through my list. I'm not gonna get through my list, Mark.
We're gonna alternate. I actually stopped writing bad things down in the third quarter, but we're gonna alternate. So my first bad thing is Eli Apple. Okay, they clearly watched the footage from last week. Make no mistake, I got into a Twitter battle with somebody before the season started about Eli Apple not being starter quality. They specifically were looking at who Eli Apple was covering. And even when Fields came in the game, his first two pass attempts were against people Apple was covering. He's the weak spot. It's terrible. Like I said, well, and that's my first bad thing. And that's not even the biggest bad thing. I'm trying to ease you into the quagmire we're about to go into. So
it's just the tip, Mark.
We
even had we had a gentleman on our rap show last week that kind of downplayed what we were saying about Eli Apple and his performance in week one. And I would really love it if he was watching this video right now, because I'm the king of I told you so victory laps, because they were obviously targeting him. He's obviously a liability. And it's a problem. I mean, he's a Bengal. So I'm going to root for him like crazy. You know what I mean? I want him to do well. It's not like I enjoy that he's not doing good, which, by the way, is going to be a theme for me throughout this show. But he's not cutting it. And, I hate to say it, but Waynes isn't cutting it either. He hasn't put on stripes yet.
Right.
Wayne's not played in the game in stripes yet.
We could have extended Bates, spent money. So far, he's turning out to be like one of our worst free agent signings in a long time. I'm hoping he contributes this year and he turns that around, but Wayans has yet to play a down for us. We've paid him a ton of money. We're going to pay him a ton of money this year. And it's like I said, Bates we could have retained Gio with the money. And that takes me to my next point.
I'm in
running back protection.
I'm on board with this.
Running back protection, guys. Mixon was a culprit today too.
This is like Festivus. Does anybody watch Seinfeld anymore?
Yes, it's a Festivus for the rest of us.
It's like Festivus. Let's air our grievances.
Yes,
and the lack of Gio is a huge one.
Yeah, we're seeing enormous. And we could have kept Gio with the Wayans money. And we would have had this extra blocker. So
probably with half the money.
And we could have extended Bates with the rest of it. So it's a huge thing. It just led right into it because we were talking about Waynes. But it's a weakness. There was also a blown coverage today on a couple blitzes. So there's plenty of blame to go around. There was, I think it was Khalil Mack. It was either Mack or Smith. But I tried to look to see who the culprit was. It was Jonah Williams that missed the block. I kept going back to say, who missed that block? So Quentin Spain missed the block. There's issues. What were the total sacks today, by the way?
I think they had we had a total of 3. I think you know what? I don't remember what they had. I
No,
want to
we
say
have 4 for 28. We had 4 for 28. They had 3 for 33.
okay.
So
Yeah, I that actually oh yeah, we did have 4 because we had that's right. Hubbard had 1.5.
mm. so
Um
so
Reader had 1
yes,
and
Reader got his
no,
first sack as a Bengal,
close.
by the way. I think that was his first recorded sack for us. But
Right.
like I said, we Pollock will clean up the missed assignments, but this is an issue. The way our running backs block, this is an issue. So that was
Yeah,
the other thing.
the most egregious one was in crunch time, and it was Mixon.
Yes.
It was coming in between the left tackle, left guard gap. They rushed an extra man, and Mixon tried to just throw a chip block on him, failed miserably, and Burrow got flattened
Right.
immediately.
Well,
I
wasn't
mean,
that the
it
one where
was
Burrow threw
it
the
was
wasn't that the one where Burrow threw the interception, the third interception?
no, I think it was just prior to that, as a
Oh,
matter of
okay.
fact. I think Burrow held on to the ball, but I think it was that same drive. I think it was just prior to that. And yeah, Mixon, missed that badly. And it just reminds you, what, a lot of football fans just look at running backs like Giovanni Bernard, and all they look at is, can he run the ball? Can he catch the ball? Can he do this? Can he
What
do
are his
that?
stats? What are his fantasy points? And they don't
Yeah.
realize what he's contributing away from the ball.
Yeah, and that's enormous. And we
Right.
talked at length during the wrap up last week about why isn't Captain America on the field more, and we pseudo decided that maybe it's just because he's not a great blocker. I mean, he got
Yeah.
out there today and he caught one pass. I think it was like 14
There
yards.
was an Evans sighting. Unfortunately, it was one of the few things I wrote down that was good. We had an Evans sighting. He caught a ball,
Right.
but yeah, no, it's an issue.
Yeah, Samaje can't block.
Right.
Mixon, I think he can, but I think they also tell Mixon, well, don't throw yourself out there. We don't want you to get hurt. So
Right.
I think it's a combination of his technique and them, handling him with kid gloves. And Evans, who knows? That's why you need a Geo. That's why you need that veteran
Yeah.
that's willing to go out there and just do whatever it takes. But we're definitely missing that.
No.
And with an offensive line that's below average, it's no longer, I think,
It's
the worst.
still a work in progress, and I think
Yeah.
it will be better as they play more together by the end of the season. And Pollock will do his coaching, but right now, yeah, we could use a Geo. The one other thing I want to bring up, and we talk about, and this is why we can close the book on Eli Apple, because Eli Apple's involved in this too, is I talk all the time about situational football. We missed a tackle today on like a 3rd and long. I think it was a Woozier that missed the tackle on like a 3rd and 13.
Oh yeah, it was
We
bad.
ended up, we had a lot of those situational blunders. And while we had last week, we only had 3 penalties in the entire game. This week we had 4, and they were all in the first half. We had no penalties in the second half because I checked the penalties at half, and it was four penalties. 2 of those penalties were enormous. Okay. Going back to Eli Apple on that pass interference, if you have enough time to give that guy a shove, why don't you just get in front of it and knock the ball down?
Turn
You
around.
didn't need turn around and play football instead of doing stupid stuff. That one led to the Bears' first score, which turned out to be their only score of the first half. The second one was we had the Bears on a 3rd and long inside their 5, and Von Bell gets called on a taunting. Now, they've already called a taunting on us, so they're balancing the books, but why even give them that? We would have gotten the ball back. We would have already been in Legatron or Evan Almighty. You can call him whatever you want to call him. We would have already been in range because we would have received the punt at like the 40. And
we can do Legatron. That's been done.
Okay, so we'll go. I saw Evan Almighty, so I'm going to go with that.
I like McPherson.
Oh yeah, I've seen the fear, but the bottom line is that penalty, those two penalties were so big. I mean, it was just, and so I'm going to close the book. I'm not going to mention Eli Apple again. He's not worth my breath, but that was the big penalty that basically gifted it. And I watched the play twice, and I said, if you have time to give him a shove, why not step forward and just knock the ball down, or better yet, intercept it? Play football, play football. But situational football killed us today. Missed tackles. Logan Wilson not falling on the football. We fall on the football. It doesn't even start that whole chain of events.
I mean, think you just gave me like PTSD.
My gosh. It was
not falling on that ball is,
he's trying to do the swoop and score.
They teach that in Pee Wee.
Right.
Dude, you don't have to scoop it up. You're on their 25 yard
like
line.
A 30-yard line.
I mean, 30-yard line.
I even have here, how different would the game have been if Logan Wilson had just fallen on the football? We had already scored a field goal. We had all the momentum. Now we got Fields second guy. He would fumble, then he'd start pressing. I mean, the game literally turned when we did not recover that football.
Well, yeah, and you think about, I know that it's the heat of the moment. You can't always think about everything, but some of these guys need to remember who's on their team. Who do you champion in every interview or whatever? You champion Joe Burrow. He's our quarterback. You champion these wide receivers. You champion Joe Mixon. So that means fall on the ball,
right?
Fall on the ball. If you honestly think that you need to scoop that up and score, that means you have no faith in your offense regardless.
Right.
So just fall on the ball, hand the ball over to the guys that you champion and let them get it done. I understand that in the heat of the moment, things happen, and your instinct is, I want to pick that up and run for a touchdown. I get it. I just wish they would slow down a little bit.
Right.
And speaking to your point earlier, it's one of those things where, it's situational football, and the mistakes that are made, even though it might just only be one by a certain player, it might be won by Logan, it might be won by a DB, it might be won by a D lineman. The problem is, we are not a good enough team yet for those to just be swept under the rug, because we're going to win anyway. So those, small mistakes that are part of situational football are going to be magnified a million times, because just one of them will mean the difference between winning and losing a game. For now, until we're world beaters.
Right. So, well, we had, and I have a bunch of other things that are like, I don't even want to talk Pratt getting faked out of his shoes. There were so many, like I said, I could sit there. Let's get into the 4 straight turnovers. So I talked about Burrow's 3 interceptions, but the first one was T. Higgins. So we don't scoop up the ball. We get the ball down on our 30. Joe completes a really nice pass across midfield, and then T. Higgins gets the ball stripped. And the ball clearly, while it didn't bounce for us on the Logan play, it bounces right into the hands of a Bear.
Oh yeah, right.
And then you realize, okay, so here we are. So now we're trailing, and then, like I said, that opens the floodgates. But that's the first of the turnovers. We had 4 in a row.
Yep. And for
couple
Burrow,
are on Joe, but that one's on Higgins.
3 straight pass attempts. 3 interceptions on 3 straight attempts, not even 3 straight drives.
Well,
3 straight attempts.
First
so 3 times in a row, he threw the ball to the wrong team.
Right. Well, 2 of them, he forced the ball. And like I said, he's trying to do too much. The third one was clearly on pass protection. I mean, he just got drilled before he even threw it, and it just lands. That's one of those that if it hits the ground, it's going to be called because his arm's moving forward and all that, but it's picked off. So they don't even have to look to see if it's if his arm's going forward. Who cares? It was intercepted, and that's so it's just And he didn't see the Roquan Smith. He just didn't see Roquan Smith. I told you I started him. I told you Roquan is a 10 tackle guy for me every week. Believe me, I wish I didn't have the touchdown. I texted the team I was playing saying I would rather not have the Roquan Smith touchdown.
Yeah, that was a good call by you on Thursday in our preview. I mentioned that I wasn't feeling good about Khalil Mack, and Khalil Mack made a lot of noise today too. And you said, and also Roquan Smith. It was a great call. I wish it wasn't, but it was.
No,
by the way, I'm drinking a White Claw right now.
Oh, okay. No, I'm going to try to get some work done. It's still so I'm just on my dragon fruit vitamin water. And we do not get paid by them. That's not why I'm showing it.
I'm drinking a White Claw right now because that's pretty much as basic as our play calling was today.
Yeah,
which is something that I do not feel good about. Okay. The play calling once again was horrible. It was so vanilla and so boring and you know what? I'll actually run it back. The play calling was bad, but I'm really getting tired of everybody giving Joe Burrow a free pass. I understand he's young. I understand that we love him and Cincinnati loves him and he's great and everything, but Joe Burrow is squarely in the crosshairs for this loss today.
Well,
it was absolutely his fault.
So I'm going to go a little easier on the coaching staff. If the players execute, like T. Higgins holds the ball, we make situational plays, I think the play calling would have been fine. I really do. We didn't execute. We did.
Well, and I agree mostly with that. That's why I kind of backpedaled a little bit on the play calling. But it's time for I recognize that Joe Burrow hasn't even played a full season yet.
Right.
But listen, if Andy Dalton had the game today for the Bengals that Joe Burrow had, they'd be building a cross in Fountain Square, dragging him to crucifixion. It's ridiculous. The pass that Burrow gets from Cincinnati fans. He's a quarterback. He is a good quarterback. He is a number one overall quarterback. If you're not holding him to a higher standard, you should be. It's not kid gloves. It's not, oh, well, he'll be just fine. It's not that. Or you should have done that with Andy Dalton and with any number of quarterbacks prior to that. It's time to say Joe Burrow is a pro. And when he sucks, say he sucks instead of pretending like it's not his fault. I had a buddy today. Joe Burrow is making these ridiculous passes. He's also standing in the pocket for like 3.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds with our offensive line. And then an incomplete pass or an interception. And they're like, well, yeah, the offensive line sucks. I'm like, no, that's offensive line is not get out of jail free. It's at some point you have to look at the quarterback and say, what's the quarterback doing? Joe Burrow had an awful day today. And if you disagree with me, put it in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Now, are we done? Because we could go on for an hour about bad stuff. The last thing I have on bad stuff, real quickly, I know I got Hendrickson. Even when we fight back and it's 2017 and it's 3rd down and 9, make the tackle on Fields.
Yeah.
Now, we could have got the ball back. We could have tied the game. We might have been having a completely different conversation because, it's 23. It's 20-3. And then all of a sudden it's 2017.
So that missed tackle was enormous.
But he had missed a couple earlier today. So it was just, like I said, this team not going as much on the play calling. I'm going on execution and bad situational football today.
Right.
I really think because in a game where we played horrible, I felt at halftime, we were lucky to only be down 7-0. I bet them second half.
Yeah, no, that was, I put a star. That was one of my,
that's a good thing. We were lucky.
Things I'm feeling good about. I put a star next to feeling good about 7-0.
Right.
I mean,
I thought we should have been down more at half. So, And like I said, and it can all be different without the Von Bell play. The first half is different. Without the Von Bell penalty, the first half is different.
Sure.
Eli Apple just decides to play football. And I broke my own rule and mentioned him again, but the first half is completely different. So let's just close on the bad there. And yes, Joe Burrow is still, he's essentially, he hasn't even played a full season. So he's making rookie mistakes.
Yeah, and I get that.
And he had gone 200 passes without interception. Yes, I know when he decided to screw up the average, he went 3 in a row. Two of them were on him, but to his credit, and we're going to get into the good now. We're transitioning to the good. Take your bad hat off, set it aside, and put your positive thinking hat on now. The good was he didn't quit. And I give kudos to the coaches for leaving him in the game and making him play the rest of this game, because there's a lot of coaches that would have kind of sheltered Joe and said, oh, he's thrown 3 picks in a row. Let's put him Brandon Allen and prepare for next week and all that, because there was still only 7 or 8 minutes left in the game. They decided, let's leave him in there. And what does he do? He sets a positive tone going into next week, because at least we scored 2 touchdowns.
But I don't think anybody would have ever considered pulling him out of the game.
I don't know. Sometimes you worry about guys. You're protecting the psyche of your quarterback. You don't want him to get ruined. But
if you're within, I understand if it's 41-10. But if you're within 2 scores, the guys
wasn't. We were 3 scores back. It was 20-3 at this point, and we left him in the game. We got the touchdown. He actually had Chase on a bet. If he just throws the ball and bounce, Chase gets that touchdown. He gets him a couple plays later on an underthrown ball that Chase comes back to, but he had a better route. But how many times would Andy Dalton not have even aired it out? Would have dumped it off to the dump off guy and not gone for it. That's why I didn't have any problem with either ball, the underthrown one or the one he threw out of bounds, because he's still attacking. He's a competitor. He's still fighting. And that's something positive that I feel good about. Scoring the last 14 points of this game. Listen, the Bears were lucky to escape now, where they literally had the game in hand. This almost became the biggest shit show in Chicago radio if we come back and win this game in the last 7 minutes. So,
well, especially when they're all screaming for Justin Fields, and he went 6 for 13 for 60 yards and an interception.
He didn't He didn't get first team reps. We got what we wanted in terms of Fields, because I truly believe they were looking for an excuse to play him. Andy, when he went GIP, I said, oh, he's coming in early. And so Fields, we got what we wanted, because we're going to have Fields probably playing, the other 3 teams in our division.
Yeah.
So, and he'll have first team reps. He will be better than he is now. They will completely shift.
Maybe you just don't know with a rookie quarterback. There's a reason that Fields didn't go first, didn't go second, didn't go third, didn't go 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th. There's a reason.
But he didn't go much farther than that. We had 5 quarterbacks. He was the 3rd off the board, 4th off the board.
Something like that.
You're right. And so, like I said, Fields brings an element that's going to be that's exciting, and it's a Lamar Jackson.
Exciting, sure, but he's no slam dunk.
I'm not saying he's a slam dunk, but he's better than Andy Dalton.
Is he?
If we're.
Are you sure?
Do you honestly think that Andy Dalton's going to go out and as leading the Bears? Andy Dalton is going to beat Baltimore or beat Pittsburgh or beat Cleveland? No, I think Justin Fields, you don't know what you have. I think he's got, like I said, we talked about this.
But do you think Justin Fields is going to do that?
You know what? He's an unknown quantity.
Beat Baltimore or beat Cleveland? I doubt it.
He might. You never know. You never.
Well, Andy Dalton might too.
Andy Dalton won't. That's why he's not on our team anymore, and that's why the Bears fans were yelling. That's why the Bears fans have been yelling for. They realize that Andy Dalton is an adequate backup. He's not a starter.
No, you're wrong. They're yelling because they have a shiny toy, and they have no idea whether it's a good toy or a bad toy.
So let's see.
But they want to see the toy.
Yeah. Right. Like I said, there's not. So I'm just saying, I feel better having Fields playing the other three games with the division than I do. So like rather than Andy Dalton.
Agree to disagree. I'd rather Andy Dalton was back there against those teams.
Okay. Let's turn. We had a Evan sighting. So we saw Captain America for one play. He caught the ball. That was positive. And obviously, I'm going with Evan Almighty. I put it down there. It was the first thing I wrote down when he hit the 53-yarder. I love our kicker. I finally have a kicker I believe in.
I have a text thread with a bunch of big Bengal fans, most of which are from our group in Los Angeles.
Shout out to Bengals West.
Yeah, from Bengals West, and we always text during the games, kind of a running commentary or whatever. And part of it was a little bit of needling one guy who didn't like the fact that we drafted a kicker, and which I've always been behind. I was like, no, this is a good thing. But I sent a text and I was like, how awesome is it to have a kicker run out there for a 53-yarder and you actually feel like
make this? Yeah, we got this.
We're about to get 3 points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And last week in the Minnesota game, when he came out in overtime for the game winner, he was smiling and kind of laughing on the field. And apparently a couple of his teammates looked at him and were like, what are you laughing about? And he said, we're about to win the game. How awesome is that?
That was his first walk-off kick too. He never had that in college, where he got to kick it and walk off the field as a victor. He
strolls out there for a 33-yard, potentially game-winning field goal, and he's like giggling. And they're like, "What the fuck's wrong with that guy?"
Because he's Evan Almighty.
Like, oh, we're about to win. This is going to be awesome.
That's right. And Evan Almighty.
And he got carried off the field, and he got so excited about that, which is cool. I wrote him down, for lack of some other things. I wrote down, I will never get tired of Evan McPherson making kicks. It's
Evan Almighty.
It's excellent. I like Evan Almighty. I
like Evan Almighty too. So that's what I'm going with until someone I know it's low hanging fruit using the fearsome, so.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's kind of,
I think I've already called him like 4 things at this point. I know.
So I was doing Legatron, but I like the Evan Almighty. So but as a Bengal fan, this was a huge missed opportunity. I mean, we had a real good opportunity. This was a very beatable team. I mean, as bad as we played is 2017. I mean, it just shows you that if we had T. Higgins doesn't drop the ball, Logan Wilson falls on the ball, there's just so many little things that could have turned this game completely around, and we didn't make any of them.
Let's go ahead and mention the elephant in the room, which is, we're talking a lot about what didn't go right on offense, and incompleted passes and drops and sacks and such like that. But what we haven't mentioned is that for the second week in a row, the defense played outstanding.
Yes.
It was 7-0 at halftime. And the defense and the offense couldn't get anything going. So the defense was on the field a lot.
Yes.
I mean, they didn't get a lot of breathers. And they Montgomery, for the second week in a row, we bottled up a potentially all-pro running back to the tune of 3.1 yards per carry. That's exactly what we did to Dalvin Cook, because Monty was 20 carries for 61 yards, did not score, only had 3 catches for 18 yards, which was something I was worried about when we did the preview. That's big. I mean, the defense played well. Hilton was all over the place. You take Apple out of it, and for the most part, you didn't hear a lot of guys from the secondary's names, which is a good thing. If you don't hear their names, that's somebody's doing something right back there.
Yes.
So, I don't want, this video to go by the wayside without us mentioning that once again. And it remains to be seen how good this Bears offense can actually be. But they got Allen Robinson, and he didn't do much. They got Montgomery, and we bottled him up. Whether it's Andy or Justin Fields, seemed to make little difference. The defense played well. I'd like to see a little more uh, turnover potential, but I don't care, man. I mean, 7-0 at halftime. As a Bengals fan, I'm taking that all day.
Well, I'm going to give you, because I agree 100%, and it was the last thing I was going to mention was our defense. I'm going to sum it up in one thing. We turned the ball over on 4 straight possessions, 3 of them on our side of the field, 1 of them inside the 10. Our defense held them to 13 points. We were only down 20-3 because of our defense, and you threw them out there on 4 straight possessions, and several of them deep in our own end. One of them inside 100%. The 10. So they forced a punt, and they forced a touchdown and 2 field goals. And you cannot argue with that at all. They did their job. They're the whole reason why when we get the Logan Wilson interception and Joe Burrow makes his touchdown pass, both touchdown passes, and all of a sudden we're still in the game, because it easily could have been 31-3.
Yeah, if you would have given me the defensive stats through the first 2 games of this season, if you'd have given that to me, let's say last season around week 8, okay, but next year, here's your stats for the first 2 games, I'd have told you were nuts. I was like, there is no way this is going to turn into that unless we ended up with, JJ Watt, Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, all of them. You know what I mean? But they're a cohesive unit. And I came into this season, my biggest doubt wasn't Zach Taylor. My biggest doubt was Lou Anarumo. And I don't know if he's just got guys that are really, really playing hard, or guys that are buying into the system, or if he just needed to have, a couple years to really get a system in place. But thus far, I don't understand how you can be upset about this defense in any facet,
And you got to remember, both of these coaches, neither one of them. I mean, Zach was an offensive coordinator for half a season.
Right. And
when he was on Miami, I don't think Anarumo had ever been a coordinator. He was a positions coach when they were together. So maybe they're getting their footing now. Like I said, I just love what I'm seeing. And the defense was not the issue today. And then the last thing I have is, and it's a positive, and it's the Steelers lost today. I mean, when everything's said and done, it's 3 teams are at 1-1. We're one of them. And the Ravens could very easily be 0-2 at the end of the day, because they're playing the Chiefs tonight. So
for sure,
that's
they'll be 0-2. They're not
right. So there you have it. So I mean, when everything's said and done, we're going into Steeler week. We have a big matchup with the Steelers. But this was an opportunity for us to be 2-0. That's what makes me sad. But there's a positive in that we're still tied for first place.
Yeah, and at the same time, Mark, we do this all the time. This is a big Bengals fan thing. I think it's a big NFL fan thing.
Right.
When you lose a game like this, especially kind of a heartbreaker, and you didn't play well, but you're going into a game against a rival, and you're like, no, I'm glad we lost that game, because that way we got a little bit more of something to prove on our shoulder, rather than trying to roll in there 2-0 and thinking you're all that in a bag of chips in a Fresca. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of Cincinnati fans out there saying, you know what? Well, I mean, they're not actually glad that we lost, but that's how they'll spin it. Well, yeah. Well, you know what? We'll take this.
I don't take moral victories or any of that.
We'll take this loss and we'll translate it into a big win against Pittsburgh instead of being too comfortable. So you know what? If that's what it takes to win against Pittsburgh, I'm all for it.
Listen, Pittsburgh's fallible. We're fallible, but I like the fact that we carry, at least our offense can carry some momentum. I'm going to always go, I'm a golfer, so I always refer to golf analogies, but this is like you're having.
No, really? You haven't mentioned that.
No, it's just
any of the last.
You're having a terrible round.
In any of the last 10 videos we've done, you haven't mentioned being a golfer once.
No, there you go. You're having a terrible round. But then on the final three hoes, you go par, bogey, par. And that's at least when you open up the next round, you're carrying some positive feeling out of that round rather than having gone double, double, triple and just completely embarrassing yourself on 18 where everybody can see you from the clubhouse. So it's one of those things that I like the 14 points. I do like, that's why I said I like the fact we left Burrow in there. I think he got the bad taste out of his mouth. We're coming into this with a little more offensive momentum, feeling a little better. This loss still hurt. There's lots of lessons to be learned, but they have some good tape from the Raiders to watch the Steelers this week.
So. Yeah, and I think it's important to keep it in perspective. Even the most optimistic Bengals fan, would have given us a very favorable record at the end of the year and said we're going to make the playoffs and this and that and the other. For me personally, that was never the deal. I said in our shows that we would go like 7-10. So making the playoffs to me was never a thing. These are learning opportunities. It is a young team. We are the fourth youngest team in the NFL. So I take this with a grain of salt. Sure, it's a game we should have won. We had plenty of opportunities to do so. There's plenty of Monday morning quarterbacking to say we should have called that play or should have done this or Burrow should have played better, or Jamar should have caught this, etc. Trey Hendrickson should have made the tackle. But at the end of the day, I was not expecting to make the playoffs. So one loss that I thought we could win really doesn't shake me at all. It doesn't shake me at all. I'd be way more excited if we beat Pittsburgh next week, and we're 2-1. I would love that way more than just having won today and being 2-0. You got to beat the guys that you really want to beat down the line.
Well, next week's a statement game. If we want to, like I said, this was a week where I said, if we want to show that we're making that step, this is a game you don't lose. We did lose, so we show we're not there yet. But next week is a game where we could just get the train back on the tracks and win. And remember, last year's win, Ryan Finley was our quarterback. So Joe Burrow has not gone into Pittsburgh and gotten a win. So we are, this is his chance to kind of do, with the right game plan and everything to go in and do what, and like I said, the Raiders gave us some great tape today. So
they really did.
We have a really good at Heinz Field, and it'll be a test for McPherson because Heinz Field is a place that's tough to kick. So we're going to learn a lot about our team next week. And I do feel better. Had we gone into it 20-3, I don't think we would have the same feeling about our defense, our team, all that coming out of that loss versus this one. I don't believe in moral victories. I will never preach moral victories. Victories is something concocted by the losers to justify winning. I don't buy into that at all. But I do think we ended this on a more positive note. And I think that's a better thing we can carry into next week. So
I agree with that too. And I think, you talk about what a victory next week would mean to certain players on the team, what it would mean to this team in general, as far as putting a stamp on it. Beating Pittsburgh and Baltimore this year, at least one each, and probably Cleveland too. This is really big for Zach Taylor.
Right.
Zach Taylor needs to beat each of those teams once this season in order to stay the head coach of this team.
Agreed.
In my opinion.
No. I agree with you. Listen, USC, we've gone through coaches. I'm not talking recently. We can go back. Failure to beat Notre Dame cost Tolner his job. How many coaches have lost their job because they haven't been able to beat Michigan? Or if Jim Harbaugh loses his job at Michigan, it's going to be you can't beat Ohio State. I mean, you need to at least hold your own against your rivals, or you will. Right. I don't care what your record is. You will not keep your job.
Right now at USC, it doesn't even matter if it's Notre Dame or Ohio State. It's lose your job anyway.
Well,
because you can't beat like Murray State.
No, but I'm just saying, when you're dealing with your rivals, there are guys that have had winning records that have lost their jobs because they can't win against their rivals. So
that's exactly
I 100% agree. We have to split those games. We have to show we can hold our own. Yes.
This is Zach's chance to put a stamp on his contract and say, but look what I did.
Right.
With a really, really young team. So, and I believe that he can do it.
I do too.
I believe he can.
So, all right. Well, if you don't subscribe, please do subscribe. You can find all of Sam's stuff on Primetime Sports Talk. And we'll be back with a preview. Like I said, this is Steeler week. So Thursday night, we'll put a preview up and we'll go from there. Baby. And it's, yeah. And we'll just move on from this one and we'll chalk this up as a learning experience. So, but this still hurts. And I want everybody to have a good, safe week. I'm going to say, hoot, everybody.
Hooday.
See you on Thursday.